The planet lay under a pale green sky, its atmosphere thick with drifting spores that glimmered in the dim sunlight. Towering trees with broad, leafless canopies stretched across the horizon, their roots twisting into strange, knotted shapes that pulsed faintly as if alive. The ground shivered slightly with the movement of enormous creatures hidden in the dense undergrowth. Most explorers avoided this world, calling it the Predator's Nest, but the xenobiologist expedition had its orders. She had been chosen because of her calm and observant nature. Her species revered apex predators. They saw them as the ultimate test of skill, intelligence, and courage. Every predator they studied was a story of survival, a lesson written in claws, teeth, and instinct. But nothing had prepared her for the events of this day. The team walked cautiously along a narrow path, sensors humming softly in the background. Humans, by galactic standards, were always the weakest in such expeditions. They lacked natural armor, extraordinary speed, or psychic awareness. They carried small tools, compact energy weapons, and packs filled with medical supplies. The aliens regarded them as helpers, not fighters. The human with them today, a tall male with broad shoulders and calm gray eyes, had been assigned to carry gear and assist in minor tasks. Nothing more. As they entered a clearing, the sound hit them first, a deep, resonating growl that seemed to vibrate through the very ground. The team froze. From the shadows, the largest predator any of them had ever seen emerged. Its scales glimmered in muted hues of black and violet, thick and impenetrable. Its limbs were powerful, ending in claws like sharpened blades, and its jaws opened to reveal rows of jagged teeth that seemed capable of crushing bone like twigs. The xenobiologist's heart raced. She had studied this species for years, reading every report and examining every skeletal fragment collected by previous expeditions. Nothing in the data prepared her for the raw size and menace of this living creature. She expected panic, chaos, and retreat. Instead, she saw the human step forward. He moved slowly, deliberately, unafraid. His companions froze in confusion. The predator's eyes locked on him, focusing with uncanny intelligence. The human did not brandish a weapon, did not run. He observed. Every muscle in his body was poised, every sense alert. She watched wide-eyed as he took a deep breath and shifted his stance. The predator charged. The ground shook with each stride, the trees bending slightly under the pressure of its passage. The alien screamed and scattered, but the human held his ground. He sidestepped the first attack with astonishing speed, rolling over a fallen root to avoid the predator's crushing claws. Then he rose, pivoting, and grabbed the creature's massive forelimb with both hands. She could not believe her eyes. The human's strength was undeniable, but it was not raw power alone. It was precision. He twisted the limb, leveraging the predator's weight against itself. The creature roared, thrashing violently, but the human adjusted instantly, moving in rhythm with the predator's movements. Every motion was calculated, every action deliberate. The alien observer felt a strange mixture of fear and awe. She had seen apex predators fight one another, witnessed the death of giants by their own kin. But never had she seen a single creature, a mere human, engage so seamlessly with a predator that had ruled its territory for centuries. The predator attempted to bite, snapping its jaws with deadly force, but the human ducked under the strike, his body sliding along the ground, narrowly avoiding the sharp teeth. In one fluid motion, he delivered a strike to the creature's flank, using the momentum of its own movement to destabilize it. The predator staggered but did not fall. She could hear the gasp of her fellow alien team members, though most were too far away to intervene. Some had begun recording on their devices, unable to believe what they were witnessing. The human seemed almost calm, as though the predator were merely a puzzle to solve rather than a beast of death. With careful movements, he struck again, targeting weak points he must have learned about from instinct rather than knowledge. The predator struggled, each movement powerful, yet slower than before. Its thrashing became less coordinated, as if the human's attacks had begun to influence its balance. The observer's mind raced. How could such a being exist in this galaxy, carrying no natural enhancements, no protective shells, no psychic shields? Yet here he was, dismantling a creature that had killed dozens of her species in the past decades. He did not act with hatred. There was no joy, no cruelty. Each strike was precise, functional, necessary. The predator, sensing its own weakening, attempted a final lunge. The human anticipated it, sidestepping and twisting the predator's momentum against itself. The beast fell heavily to the ground with a crash that echoed through the trees. Dust and debris rose in the air. For a moment, silence reigned. The human did not pause. He approached the creature carefully, ensuring it was neutralized. When he stepped back, he was breathing steadily, as if he had simply walked through a quiet meadow. His eyes, calm and clear, scanned the team, checking for any who might be injured. None were. The observer could hardly comprehend what had occurred. She felt her hands shaking as she recorded notes, her voice caught in disbelief. This was more than strength. It was courage, intelligence, and control. It was survival in its purest form. The predator was gone, reduced to pieces not out of malice but out of necessity. Her species had always believed that apex predators could only be bested by equal or greater predators. They revered strength, size, and ferocity. And yet here was a human, a species considered weak, demonstrating that survival required more than physical power. It required understanding, timing, patience, and adaptability. The human turned to her, noticing her stare. For a brief moment, their eyes met. She saw neither arrogance nor pride. There was only calm awareness, the quiet confidence of one who knew what must be done and did it. The lesson was clear, though it was one she had not yet learned to put into words. Humans were underestimated at their peril. The rest of the expedition slowly gathered around, murmuring in astonishment. Even the older, seasoned predators in the observer's records could not match this display of skill. It was as if the human had become the apex of the apex, not through ferocity, but through intellect, adaptability, and precision. By the time they returned to the makeshift camp, the story of the encounter had already begun to spread among the team. Alien members whispered in disbelief, still unsure if their sensors and eyes had deceived them. The human simply tended to the equipment, checked his packs, and made sure everyone was accounted for. No one doubted the truth, but no one could fully explain it either. That night, under the alien stars that hung low and bright in the green sky, the observer lay awake. She replayed every movement, every calculation, every subtle action the human had taken. She realized that this was not just strength. This was the result of millions of years of evolution, of surviving in harsh and unforgiving conditions. The human species had been molded by predators, by scarcity, by danger. They had learned to turn weakness into advantage, fragility into endurance. She wrote her notes meticulously, trying to capture the essence of what she had witnessed. Words failed her. Numbers could not quantify the combination of instinct, reasoning, and courage she had seen. Still, she tried. One phrase kept repeating in her mind: humanity was not to be measured by what it appeared to lack, but by what it could achieve when pressed to the limits. Outside, the forest whispered as night fell. The scent of predator and prey lingered in the air. Somewhere in the shadows, other creatures watched, learning as she had learned. Perhaps they understood instinctively that a new apex had arrived, one that would challenge the natural order not with overwhelming force alone, but with the quiet, terrifying effectiveness of a species built to survive against all odds. By dawn, the observer had reached a conclusion. The human she had watched today was not exceptional in the sense of being a one-off miracle. He represented what humans could achieve when driven by necessity and guided by intelligence. The predator's reign on this planet had ended, not because of weapons, not because of technology, but because of raw adaptability, courage, and skill honed by generations of survival. And she knew, deep in her heart, that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had yet to understand what humans were capable of. She had seen the truth today, and she would carry it back to her people, hoping that one day the universe itself would realize that humanity was unlike anything it had ever encountered. The morning light filtered through the thick canopy, casting the forest in muted greens and golds. Birds with metallic feathers fluttered between branches, while small creatures scuttled through the underbrush, oblivious to the events of the previous day. The expedition had set up a temporary base near the clearing where the predator had fallen. Despite the calm exterior, tension lingered in the air. The other alien team members spoke in hushed tones, their eyes constantly scanning the shadows as if the predator could somehow return. The human, however, moved with deliberate calm. He unpacked supplies, checked sensors, and ensured every member of the team was accounted for. There was no trace of pride in his movements, no desire for recognition. He treated the encounter as a challenge overcome, nothing more. The observer followed him silently, notebook in hand. She had never seen such efficiency and focus. Every action the human took was precise, intentional, and practical. He tested the traps they had set, adjusted the perimeter sensors, and even scanned the fallen predator to understand its weaknesses. She noted that his knowledge was not from formal study or technology alone. It was instinct honed through experience, a deep understanding of the natural world that seemed almost innate. "Why don't you use your weapons?" she asked cautiously, still struggling to reconcile what she had witnessed. He glanced at her, his gray eyes calm and steady. "Weapons are a backup. If you understand your opponent, you can defeat it without relying on tools. Sometimes using your body and mind is faster and safer." Her species valued strategy and strength, but what she had seen yesterday went beyond what she had known. Humans were more than survivalists. They were adaptable, analytical, and capable of actions that seemed impossible by traditional measures. As they prepared to continue their expedition deeper into the forest, the team remained cautious. The predator had been a warning, not just a challenge. Other creatures of equal or greater danger likely roamed the area, drawn by the scent of blood and the disturbance in their territory. Yet the human led the way, moving with awareness that no sensor could replicate. He observed footprints, subtle changes in foliage, and the faint rustling of the undergrowth. Each movement gave him information. Each step was measured. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed from the distance. The sound was deep, resonating, and carried a threat that made even seasoned predators pause. The team froze. Their sensors had picked up no warning. This was new. From the shadows emerged a group of large predators, smaller than the one before but still formidable. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, and their movements were coordinated, intelligent. The aliens hesitated, unsure how to respond. They looked to the human, expecting him to retreat or panic. Instead, he observed the group calmly. His eyes scanned their positions, their behavior, and their potential weaknesses. Without hesitation, he moved forward, positioning himself between the predators and his team. The observer felt her heart pound. The human's reputation in galactic circles had always been that of a weak species. Yet here he was, standing unarmed against multiple apex predators, using only his knowledge, reflexes, and strength. The predators circled, testing, probing. One lunged forward, claws extended. The human sidestepped, grabbing the creature's momentum and redirecting it into a roll. Another charged, but he met it with a swift strike to its joint, weakening it without causing unnecessary harm. He moved like water, flowing with their attacks rather than opposing them directly. The observer could not look away. She recorded every movement, every reaction. The human's timing, balance, and understanding of the predator's anatomy were staggering. It was not just physical skill. He anticipated their behavior, predicted their responses, and adapted instantly. The predators were fast, strong, and relentless, yet he remained in control. Hours passed in what felt like moments. The predators grew frustrated, their coordination faltering as the human neutralized them one by one. He avoided killing unless absolutely necessary, using precision strikes and leverage to incapacitate. The aliens watched in awe, whispering among themselves about the impossible feat they were witnessing. Finally, the remaining predators retreated into the forest, nursing their wounds and sensing the dominance of an unexpected opponent. The human stood amidst the clearing, breathing steadily, his body unharmed despite the intensity of the confrontation. The observer approached, trying to speak but finding words inadequate. How is this possible?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and respect. He shrugged lightly. "Understanding your environment, predicting behavior, and staying calm under pressure. Humans survive by thinking, not just fighting. Strength alone is not enough." She had read about human resilience in historical records, about their ability to endure harsh climates, predators, and conflict. But seeing it firsthand was different. It was undeniable proof that humans were capable of feats beyond the understanding of most galactic species. As they resumed their journey, the human led the way through dense forests and treacherous terrain. He demonstrated techniques to avoid natural hazards, using observation and logic to navigate safely. The aliens, though initially skeptical, followed his lead, realizing that his methods were efficient and effective. During a break, the observer asked him about his past, curious how someone so capable had come to this role. The human smiled faintly. "Survival, that's all humans have ever known. Every challenge we face, every predator we encounter, we learn, we adapt, we endure. That's why we are still here." As they reached a river that cut through the forest, the human demonstrated how to cross without attracting attention. He studied the flow of the water, the placement of rocks, and the behavior of small animals to choose the safest path. The aliens followed cautiously, impressed by the subtlety of his knowledge. Suddenly, a shadow passed overhead. A flying predator, sleek and agile, swooped down toward the group. The human reacted instantly, throwing a branch with precise aim to distract it. The creature veered off course, narrowly missing the team. The observer felt a thrill of amazement. Humans were not just strong, they were inventive, able to use their environment creatively in life-or-death situations. Night approached, and the team set up a temporary shelter. Fires burned, illuminating the faces of the exhausted but safe members. The observer sat near the human, still trying to process the day's events. He had faced danger without fear, solved problems with calm reasoning, and demonstrated a level of skill that defied expectation. "Do you ever get scared?" she asked softly, curious about the human's mindset. He considered her question, looking into the flickering flames. "Fear is natural, but fear alone doesn't help. You either use it to stay alert and think, or it controls you. Humans learn to control it, to turn it into action rather than panic." She understood in theory, but seeing it in practice was profound. Humanity's strength was not in raw power or weapons. It was in the ability to remain composed, to analyze, and to act decisively. The night passed without incident, though the forest seemed alive with unseen eyes watching the humans and aliens alike. The observer realized that the creatures they faced today were not just testing the human, they were learning from him, recognizing the unexpected apex among them. By morning, the expedition was ready to continue. The observer felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. If the predators had reacted this way, what awaited deeper in the forest? Yet she knew one thing clearly. With the human leading, they had a chance that no other species could claim. As they moved forward, the observer kept her eyes on him, studying every step, every gesture, every reaction. Each moment reinforced what she had already begun to understand. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were resilient, intelligent, and capable of extraordinary feats. In a universe that valued physical prowess above all, humanity had discovered a new path, one that combined thought, instinct, and courage into a force that no predator could ignore. The forest stretched on endlessly, filled with danger and mystery, yet the human walked confidently, his presence a beacon of calm and competence. The observer felt a thrill of anticipation. She knew the coming days would test them further, that challenges would grow more complex and perilous. But if humanity had survived this far, if they had triumphed against impossible odds, perhaps there was no limit to what they could achieve. And so, with the shadows of unseen predators moving through the trees and the hum of alien life all around, the expedition pressed onward. The human led with quiet authority, demonstrating not just survival, but mastery of a world designed to challenge even the strongest. The observer followed, her mind alight with questions and admiration, knowing that she had witnessed the beginning of a story that would redefine how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. The forest grew denser as they moved deeper, the trees twisting into shapes that seemed almost alive. Faint light filtered through the thick canopy, and the air hung heavy with humidity and the faint scent of unknown flora. Sounds of the forest echoed everywhere, rustling leaves, distant calls, the low rumble of unseen creatures. The alien members of the expedition grew uneasy. Every step forward felt like stepping into the lair of countless predators, each waiting for a moment of weakness. The human led calmly, scanning the ground for signs of danger. Every broken branch, every footprint, every disturbed patch of moss spoke to him in subtle ways. Unlike the sensors that beeped and buzzed at vague threats, his senses interpreted the environment with clarity and precision. The aliens watched him silently, noting how he moved with both caution and confidence, a balance that seemed impossible in such a hostile world. Suddenly, a low growl rolled through the underbrush. This time it was closer. The predator they had faced before had been solitary, but now the sounds of multiple creatures reached them from every direction. The ground shook as the predators approached, their enormous forms breaking through thick foliage. Unlike the first encounter, this group was coordinated. They moved as a pack, surrounding the expedition with intelligence and strategy that made the aliens uneasy. Most species would have panicked at such a sight, retreating or firing indiscriminately. The human, however, remained calm. He turned to the team, his expression steady. "Stay together, watch my movements, do exactly what I do." There was no fear in his voice, only clarity. The first predator lunged, its speed almost too fast to follow. The human ducked under the attack, grabbing its forelimb and twisting with perfect timing. The creature howled in pain but managed to push him slightly, testing his strength. Without hesitation, the human used the predator's own momentum to roll it away, immediately preparing for the next strike. Another predator charged from the side. The human anticipated it, pivoting and striking its knee joint in a way that disabled the leg without crushing it. The creature toppled, growling in confusion. The pack hesitated for the briefest moment, a pause that was all the human needed. He moved with fluid precision, neutralizing each predator methodically, exploiting weaknesses in ways the aliens had never imagined. The observer could hardly keep up. She had expected the human to struggle or fail against multiple predators. Instead, he was orchestrating their defeat like a conductor leading an orchestra. Every movement was deliberate, every action precise. He didn't strike blindly, he calculated, adapting instantly to the predator's responses. Hours passed as the human battled the pack. The alien team watched in awe, noting his ability to anticipate attacks and respond with efficiency. Even the older members, veterans of countless dangerous worlds, whispered to one another, unable to fully grasp what they were witnessing. Humans, long considered weak by galactic standards, were proving that survival depended on more than physical strength. Eventually, the last of the predators retreated into the shadows, nursing injuries and wary of the unexpected apex before them. The human stood in the clearing, breathing steadily, his body unscathed despite the ferocity of the encounter. He immediately turned to check on the team, ensuring no one was harmed. The observer approached cautiously, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and awe. How can a human do this? You are not even armed with proper weapons. Understanding, anticipation, and timing are stronger. Humans survive by using intelligence, observation, and instinct. That is enough when applied correctly. Yet here was undeniable proof that their combination of thought, adaptation, and endurance surpassed expectations. She began to realize that humans were shaped by survival itself, their strengths honed by necessity rather than birth. As they continued through the forest, the human demonstrated other skills that emphasized this philosophy. He led the team across treacherous terrain, using balance and leverage to navigate slippery rocks and hidden pits. He identified safe paths across unstable bridges of roots and vines, explained how to avoid areas where predators might ambush them, and even taught techniques to conserve energy while moving quickly through dense undergrowth. The observer was fascinated by the simplicity and effectiveness of his methods. Each technique relied on understanding the environment, predicting how obstacles might react, and applying knowledge with precision. It was not brute force, it was mastery. By midday, they reached a narrow canyon where the walls rose high, covered in thick moss and hanging vines. The human studied the walls carefully, observing the way small creatures moved and where larger predators might hide. Without a word, he climbed first, testing handholds and footholds, ensuring the path was safe. When he descended on the other side, he guided the team one by one, demonstrating patience and foresight. Suddenly, the air grew tense. A new predator emerged from the shadows, one unlike any they had encountered before. Its scales shimmered like metal, reflecting the dim light, and its eyes glowed with a sharp intelligence. It moved silently but swiftly, circling the team as if testing their reactions. The alien members stiffened. This was no ordinary predator. It was the apex of the apex, a creature that had survived every challenge the forest offered. The human stepped forward, his posture calm and measured. He did not hesitate. He analyzed the predator's movements, noting the subtle shifts in balance, the tension in its muscles, and the focus in its eyes. Without weapons, without fear, he engaged. The predator lunged, faster than anything they had faced before. The human ducked, rolled, and delivered a precise strike to its leg. The creature recoiled but recovered, circling again, assessing its opponent. The battle lasted far longer than any previous encounter. The human adapted with every movement, predicting attacks, using the environment to his advantage, and conserving energy for critical moments. The observer watched, mesmerized by the combination of instinct, strategy, and physical skill. It was as if the human were not fighting the predator but engaging in a conversation with it, understanding its patterns and responding in kind. Finally, the apex predator faltered. It had underestimated the human's resilience and adaptability. With a final sequence of precise maneuvers, the human disabled it without unnecessary harm. The creature fell to the ground, defeated but alive, a testament to the human's skill and restraint. The team breathed a collective sigh of relief. The observer approached, her notebook overflowing with observations and sketches. "I have never seen anything like this," she admitted, her voice low. "Your strength, your understanding, it is beyond anything I imagined. That is what allows us to do what you just saw." They had learned to turn weakness into strength, fragility into resilience, and danger into opportunity. As night fell, the team set up camp near the canyon. The human ensured everyone was safe, distributing food and water while maintaining a perimeter for protection. The observer watched him, realizing that humanity's greatest strength was not in one battle or one act of courage. It was a pattern, a way of life, a philosophy that turned survival into mastery. The alien team members, once skeptical and fearful, began to see the truth. They whispered among themselves, comparing notes and observations. Humans, they realized, were not simply another species. They were a force to be reckoned with, capable of feats that defied conventional understanding. By dawn, the expedition prepared to move deeper into the forest. The observer felt a mix of anticipation and awe. The challenges ahead would be greater, the predators more cunning, the terrain more dangerous. Yet she knew one thing clearly. With the human leading, they had a chance of surviving what would otherwise be impossible. The forest seemed to sense the shift in balance. Birds and small creatures observed from hidden perches, predators lingered at the edges of the path, and the air was alive with tension. Yet the human walked with quiet authority, guiding his team, teaching them through example, and showing that intelligence, adaptability, and courage were as powerful as any weapon. The observer recorded every moment, every action, every subtle movement. She knew that the galaxy would never understand humanity fully until it witnessed what she had seen. How a species considered weak could face apex predators, overcome impossible odds, and emerge victorious. And so, they pressed on, deeper into the forest, the human leading with quiet confidence. Every step forward was a lesson, every encounter a demonstration of skill and survival. The observer realized that she had witnessed more than just battles with predators. She had witnessed the essence of humanity: resilience, intelligence, courage, and the unyielding will to survive against all odds. The forest stretched endlessly ahead, a tangle of towering trees, thick vines, and hidden dangers. The pale green light filtered down in slivers, creating shifting shadows that made even the most confident explorers uneasy. Birds with strange metallic feathers watched silently from above, while unseen creatures rustled through the underbrush. The alien members of the expedition moved cautiously, their senses heightened by the memory of the previous encounters. Each step forward was measured, careful, and tense. The human led the group steadily, unhurried, his gray eyes scanning every inch of the forest. He had proven himself against predators that even seasoned aliens feared, yet he showed no arrogance, no sense of invincibility. His focus remained on observation, anticipation, and protection of his team. Every action was purposeful, efficient, and precise. As they progressed, they reached a clearing filled with massive stone formations that glimmered faintly under the green sky. The formations were jagged, some leaning at impossible angles, and the ground was uneven and treacherous. Sensors indicated unusual energy readings, residual traces of unknown creatures that had passed through the area long before. The alien team hesitated, uncertain whether to proceed. The human examined the terrain carefully. He ran his hands along the stones, tested their stability with precise pressure, and assessed the angles for safe climbing and traversal. "Follow closely," he instructed, his tone calm. "Step where I step, watch how I move." Suddenly, a low, vibrating growl filled the clearing. The ground shivered and the team froze. From the shadows emerged a predator unlike any they had faced before. Its body was sleek but massive, covered in iridescent scales that reflected the dim light. Its claws were long and sharp, its jaws lined with jagged teeth. Unlike previous predators, it moved with calculated intelligence, almost as if it were aware of the human's reputation and sought to challenge him specifically. The alien members instinctively stepped back, unsure how to react. The human, however, took a deep breath and stepped forward. He did not wield a weapon. He did not retreat. He simply observed the predator, studying its stance, its breathing, and the subtle shifts in its muscles. The predator lunged with blinding speed. The human reacted instantly, ducking under the first attack and rolling along the uneven stone ground. He grabbed the creature's limb mid-strike, twisting it with precise leverage to destabilize it. The predator roared, attempting to recover, but the human anticipated its movement, striking another joint to neutralize its power without causing unnecessary harm. The observer watched in awe. Each move was calculated, a perfect combination of observation, instinct, and experience. He was not relying on brute force alone. He was predicting the predator's actions, using its momentum against itself and adapting to each sudden change in strategy. More predators emerged, drawn by the disturbance. They surrounded the team, forming a circle of teeth and claws. The alien members panicked, but the human remained calm. "Stay with me," he instructed. "Do not scatter. Move as I move." Hours passed, though time felt distorted in the intensity of the encounter. The human's skill was unmatched. He neutralized predator after predator with restraint, showing no cruelty, only efficiency. The alien team observed silently, realizing that what they had always believed about humans, fragile, weak, limited, was entirely wrong. When the last predator retreated into the shadows, injured but alive, the clearing fell silent. The human stood tall, breathing evenly, his body unmarked despite the ferocity of the fight. He immediately checked on his team, ensuring that every member was safe. The observer approached cautiously, her hands shaking slightly as she recorded her notes. This is incredible," she said softly. "How do you do it? No species in this galaxy has faced such odds and survived." She had seen the evidence firsthand. The calculated strikes, the anticipation, the instinctual understanding of prey and predator alike. Humans had not evolved to rely on sheer power or natural defenses. They had evolved to endure, to think, and to act decisively when confronted with danger. As they continued their journey, the forest seemed to react differently. Birds and small creatures observed from hidden perches, predators lingered at the edges of visibility, and even the shadows seemed to pause. The human moved as if the forest itself had become a partner, guiding him, while the alien struggled to keep up with his pace and awareness. They reached a river that cut through the forest like a silver ribbon. The current was strong and the riverbanks were lined with slippery stones. The human studied the flow, testing rocks with precise steps, assessing which paths would allow safe crossing. "Follow me exactly," he instructed. "Step where I step, don't rush." He demonstrated how to use balance, leverage, and observation to move across unstable terrain safely. Even the most skeptical aliens admitted that his methods were extraordinary. As night fell, they camped on the riverbank. The human maintained a secure perimeter, checking sensors and keeping watch. He ensured that the team had water, food, and shelter while remaining alert to the subtle signs of nearby predators. The observer watched him, realizing that humanity's strength lay not just in physical skill, but in foresight, planning, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. Around the campfire, she asked him about his species' history. "Your abilities, your endurance, where does it come from?" Her species relied on natural strength, speed, and psychic ability. Humans had none of these in excess, yet they thrived. It was not power alone that ensured survival, but intelligence, adaptability, and resilience. The predator's defeat had been a demonstration of this philosophy. Strength guided by knowledge, courage tempered by reason. The night passed quietly, though the forest remained alive with hidden eyes. The human kept watch, alert but calm. He spoke softly to the team, offering guidance and reassurance, ensuring that fear did not take root. By dawn, the expedition was ready to move again. The forest ahead was denser, darker, and more dangerous. The predators they had faced were only the beginning. Yet the human led with quiet authority, teaching through action, demonstrating that survival required thought, observation, and courage. The observer reflected on everything she had seen over the past days. Humans were not just survivors. They were masters of adaptation, combining instinct, intelligence, and endurance in ways no other species could match. Their strength was not apparent in raw power, but in their ability to think, learn, and act under pressure. As the expedition pressed forward, she realized that the galaxy had underestimated humanity. This species, considered weak, fragile, and limited, possessed a resilience and capability that defied conventional wisdom. They were capable of surviving and thriving against odds that would destroy others, and she knew that what she had witnessed was only the beginning. The human's abilities, his understanding of survival, and his calm mastery of danger were not anomalies. They were a reflection of what humanity could achieve when pushed to its limits. The forest loomed ahead, full of unseen predators, treacherous terrain, and unknown challenges. But with the human leading the way, the expedition had a chance that no one else would. The observer felt a thrill of anticipation. She understood, finally, that humanity's strength was not in brute force, weapons, or size. It was in mind, body, and will combined. And as they moved deeper into the forest, she knew that the coming trials would test them more than ever before. But if the human could survive today, If he could master the predators and the terrain with calm skill, then perhaps nothing in this world, or any other, could truly challenge the resilience of humanity. The forest thinned as the expedition moved forward, revealing wide plains dotted with strange rock formations and pools of shimmering water. The air was warmer here, carrying scents of unknown flora and distant predators. The alien members of the team moved cautiously, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. Every step was measured, every breath careful. The memory of the previous encounters weighed heavily on their minds, but the human continued forward with steady confidence, a beacon of calm in the midst of uncertainty. He paused briefly, surveying the landscape. His gray eyes scanned for predators, natural hazards, and signs of hidden threats. His movements were deliberate, each step placing him in the safest, most advantageous position. The aliens followed, learning from his actions, understanding that survival was not about rushing, not about fighting blindly. It was about awareness, timing, and adaptation. Suddenly, a distant roar echoed across the plains. The ground trembled slightly, a subtle warning of a predator moving swiftly in their direction. The alien team tensed, their instincts urging them to retreat to take defensive positions. But the human remained calm. He crouched slightly, observing the movement of dust and the shape of shadows in the distance. "Stay calm," he instructed. "Watch carefully. Anticipate, and we will handle this together." He moved with precision, positioning himself between the predator and his team. He studied the creature, noting the angles of its limbs, the flow of its movements, and the timing of its attacks. When it lunged, he reacted instantly, sidestepping and redirecting its momentum. The predator roared, but he anticipated its next strike, countering with calculated efficiency. Hours passed in what felt like minutes. Each predator attack was met with anticipation, each movement of the human a demonstration of skill, instinct, and experience. The alien members watched in awe, whispering to one another, struggling to comprehend what they were witnessing. Humans, long considered fragile and weak, were displaying abilities that defied every expectation. As the battle continued, the human used the environment to his advantage. He maneuvered around rocks, utilized the terrain for leverage, and even anticipated subtle shifts in the predator's weight to destabilize it. He did not strike out of aggression or dominance. Each move was functional, necessary, and precise. The predators faltered, confused and frustrated, unable to predict his movements or respond effectively. Finally, the last predator retreated, limping and wary. The plains grew silent, broken only by the soft rustle of grass and the distant call of smaller creatures. The human checked on his team, ensuring that everyone was safe, that no injuries had been overlooked. His calm demeanor never wavered, his focus never broken. The observer approached him, her notebook filled with observations, sketches, and reflections. I cannot believe what I have witnessed," she said softly. "You faced impossible odds and survived. No species in this galaxy could have done what you just did." It is understanding. Humans are taught to observe, to think, and to act decisively. Strength alone does not win battles, knowledge, adaptation, and composure do. Humans demonstrated a mastery of survival that combined mind, body, and instinct in a way that no other species had achieved. As the expedition set up camp for the night, the observer reflected on everything she had seen. She thought of the first predator, the coordinated pack, the apex predators in the canyon and the plains. Each encounter had proven the same truth. Humanity's greatest strength was not in raw power, but in the ability to adapt, to anticipate, and to endure. Around the campfire, the human spoke quietly to the team. "Tomorrow we will continue, but remember this, always observe first, act second." The forest tests all who enter, but it also rewards those who learn. His words carried weight, not because of authority, but because of experience. Every predator they had faced had confirmed his philosophy. The observer made detailed notes. She realized that humans had evolved in a way that no other species could understand fully, through necessity, through constant challenge, and through survival against odds that would destroy others. Humanity's resilience was not accidental. It was honed by generations, shaped by struggle, and refined by intelligence and instinct. The next morning, the expedition continued. The plains gave way to rolling hills, dotted with alien flora that swayed in the wind like silent sentinels. The human led the team through the terrain with precision, choosing paths that minimized risk while maximizing efficiency. Every movement of his was a lesson. teaching the aliens that careful observation and calm calculation could surpass brute force or advanced technology. As they approached a large cliff overlooking the forest, a sense of awe swept through the team. The view was breathtaking, the landscape stretching far beyond what sensors could measure. Yet even in this moment of wonder, the predators were never far away. The human remained vigilant, demonstrating that awareness and readiness were constant necessities, regardless of beauty or peace. Suddenly, a new predator appeared, one of immense size and power. Its scales glimmered like polished metal, and its eyes burned with a sharp intelligence. The alien team froze, overwhelmed by the presence of such a formidable creature. But the human stepped forward, calm and composed. He studied the predator, noting its movements, its behavior, and its patterns. The battle that followed was unlike any before. The predator was powerful, intelligent, and relentless, yet the human moved with a mastery born of experience and instinct. He anticipated every strike, adapted to every movement, and used the environment to his advantage. His actions were precise, efficient, and effective. The predator faltered, unable to predict or counter the human's strategies. Hours later, the predator retreated, acknowledging defeat without further violence. The plains fell silent once more. The observer approached the human, her mind racing. "You have done the impossible again," she said. "How do you keep surviving against predators that should overwhelm you?" It is about understanding, adapting, and working with your environment. Humans learn to endure, to anticipate, and to act decisively. That is what allows us to face dangers that others cannot. They had seen proof that humans were capable of extraordinary feats, not through brute force, not through technology alone, but through a combination of intelligence, instinct, and resilience. Humans were not merely survivors, they were masters of adaptation, capable of overcoming challenges that would defeat others. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the plains, the observer reflected on the significance of what she had witnessed. Humanity's strength was not a myth. It was real, demonstrable, and profound. The galaxy had underestimated a species that combined mind, body, and will into a force capable of facing any challenge. The human sat quietly by the fire, his calm presence a reassurance to the team. He had proven repeatedly that survival depended on more than physical power. It required observation, calculation, and the courage to act when necessary. His actions had reshaped the team's understanding of strength, resilience, and capability. By the following morning, the expedition was ready to return. The observer knew that what they had accomplished and witnessed would change interspecies perceptions forever. Humanity had demonstrated that it was not fragile, weak, or limited. It was intelligent, adaptable, and capable of feats that defied conventional understanding. As they walked back toward the transport site, the observer looked at the human. She realized that she had not just witnessed survival, she had witnessed the essence of humanity itself. Every battle, every encounter, every moment of calm and focus had revealed a truth long ignored by the galaxy. Humans were extraordinary not because of power alone, but because of their ability to think, adapt, and endure. When they reached the edge of the forest, the alien team paused. They looked back at the dense trees, at the shadows where predators still lurked, and at the path they had traversed. And they looked at the human, standing confidently at the forefront, calm and unshaken. In that moment, they understood fully that humanity had earned a new place in the galaxy, not as fragile allies, but as apex survivors, masters of adaptation and endurance. The observer made her final notes, recording everything she had seen, everything she had learned. She knew that when her report reached the Galactic Council, it would challenge every preconceived notion about humans. They were not weak. They were not fragile. They were resilient, intelligent, and capable of achieving what no other species had demonstrated. And as they prepared to leave the planet, the observer realized something profound. She had witnessed a turning point in history. Humanity had proven itself not through conquest, but through skill, intelligence, and courage. It had shown that the combination of mind, body, and will was a force unlike any other. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again. The human turned to her, his expression calm and steady. "We survived," he said simply. "Not because of strength alone, but because we adapted, observed, and acted. That is what humanity does." She had learned the truth about humanity, that they were not just another species in the galaxy, but a species that could survive, endure, and triumph against anything that challenged them. And as the transport arrived to carry them home, she looked back at the forest one last time, knowing that the story of humanity's strength, courage and adaptability would echo across the stars for generations to come.